I'm now at section 3, which is called bonds of not that kind of bond. Um, and part of the army is this, as I've said, this unmaking of the individual and the remaking of the new human being as a unit where the individual is without merit. And that process involves what I call human extension. So have a look at this clip here, which is the prayer of the rifle, sometimes called the prayer of the rifle. Okay, have a look.
Tonight, you pukes will sleep with your rifles. You will give your rifle a girl's name, because this is the only pussy you people are going to get. Your days of finger banging old Mary Jane Rottencrotch through her pretty pink panties are over. You're married to this piece, this weapon of iron and wood, and you will be faithful. Port hit! Prepare to mount. Mount! Port hit! Pray!
This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. My rifle is my best friend. It is my life.
I must master it as I must master my life. Without me, my rifle is useless. Without my rifle, I am useless.
I must fire my rifle true. I must shoot straighter than my enemy who is trying to kill me. I must shoot him before he shoots me. I will. Before God, I swear this creed. My rifle and myself are defenders of my country. We are the masters of our enemy. We are the saviors of my life. So be it, until there is no enemy, but peace. Amen.
Order! Huh! At ease. Good night, ladies.
Good night, sir.
Okay, so the idea is that there is one rifle, which is unique, which is a beautiful paradox, right? Because all the Marines are alike, and yet they're supposed to be unique. Each has individual merit, and yet none of them are supposed to be actually individuals. They're supposed to work as a unit, right? And all the rifles are also different. They each have a name, and they're encouraged to give them women's names. This was practice at the time, but they all do exactly the same job, and they all look the same, right? Now these rifles would be exchanged. These are training rifles. That is, they're being given old. This I think is the M1 Garand rifle that was given to men in World War II, and it's very heavy. I mean, it's just a big, heavy wooden stock and a big piece of steel on top of that. And they're going to be given the M16A1, the M16 basically is known, which is otherwise a decent rifle, but it's the problem is that the ball powder that they're given to you, the ball powder that's in the bullets is the wrong stuff, and so basically the rifles are known for being finicky, for jamming, for getting dirty very easily. I mean, they're in the jungle, for Christ's sakes. So anyway, so there's this whole thing about the rifles, but the issue really is about the joining of the human being with the weapon. And I know this is going to look surreal. It's actually real. That's partly why I focus on it. And Hartman will say, and so the Marine Corps essentially, although it will always pay attention to religion, is going to begin to separate itself out as a different kind of God-making, naming creation. So the Marine Corps has its own rules, and Hartman says, you're gonna go and hear Chaplain Charlie, some chaplain, doesn't matter who, right? Give a talk basically, and for a long time, in World War II and in World War One, there were both Protestant and Catholic chaplains who were available, mostly because they had to process so many deaths on the battlefield, especially in World War One. I mean, there just were like every day there were just hundreds of deaths depending on the area you were in. So they were bestowing the last rites, ideally, if you're a Catholic. But as Hartman says, God plays his games, we play ours. And so you can see the Marine Corps setting itself up as essentially a God power. And that's part what this prayer of the rifle is about. It's also about joining the person to the weapon, which is what we saw in Top Gun. Right? So here's where it is. This is where it starts for the foot soldier. And when you make the rifle part of the person, which essentially is a cyborg, you sort of make them into a cyborg unit. When the soldier now is posted into the field, you post it into Iraq or Afghanistan, you are never supposed to let your rifle be more than 3 feet from you, which is not a lot of space at all. 3 feet seems like a lot, but it's not a lot. So that means that your rifle is either always with you, it's either slung over your neck, or you have it to hand. And the training becomes so natural that when soldiers come home, Canadian forces, American forces, doesn't matter, unit doesn't matter, service arm doesn't matter, whether it's infantry, Marines, doesn't matter. Basically people say they feel naked because they're sent it back out into the civilian world. They're not allowed to carry their weapons with them. And so they feel very nervous for this. They're programmed to have that thing there all the time, and so they talk about it being missing, like a phantom limb. This is the issue. So we saw the same thing with Top Gun, where basically the men join with the machines, but they have to muscle up, right? Well, these men are already muscled up because basically they're all engaged in completely physical labor all the time. So they don't have to become body machines. They are body machines. All right. So as I was going to say, what happens when you make this combination of the body and the machine, but the man is not in such good shape. And that is what happens with Gomer Pyle. So he becomes a good shot, all right. And he becomes a dead shot, which is, one shot, one kill, and so on. That is extended by when we get into Vietnam, and we see the door gunner who is shooting his M60. Okay.
Get some! Get some! Get some! Come on! Get it! Come on! Get some! Get some! Yeah! 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 I got you, brother! Ha ha! Anyone who runs is a BC. Anyone who stands still is a well-disciplined VC. You guys ought to do a story about me sometime.
Why should we do a story about you?
Cause I'm so fucking good. That ain't no shit neither. I've done got me 157 dead goops killed. And 51 of buffaloes too. Them are all certified.
Any women or children?
Sometimes.
How can you shoot women and children?
Easy. You just don't lead them so much. Ain't war hell?
So this is a typical Kubrick sort of thing to do. He actually gets these men up in the Chinook. Sorry, that's not a Chinook. It's a CH-47, I think. But it's an unusual Marine helicopter. It has this unusual shape. They sort of, they kind of got rid of those towards the end of the war. But anyway, so you occasionally see it. And I think Raptor Man, the guy who plays Raptor Man really is sick. I mean, I think he's throwing up. And flying in a helicopter, in these helicopters particularly, essentially is like going for a sort of all over the place elevator ride. So until your inner ear gets accustomed to it, it can make you very nauseated, incredibly ill. And so the soldiers didn't the grunts didn't necessarily like riding on helicopters. Most often because they were going into battle. I mean, if you're riding on a helicopter, you're either wounded or you're going into battle, probably, and rarely you were being evacuated. So here we have this guy who is just a fully functioning psychotic, and he's just shooting at everything. Now, this is part of the policy that around them, they are flying over what is called a free fire zone. And I don't have time to go into this, but this is part of the policy of basically the way that Vietnam was set. And so that anybody who is in these free fire zones, which were established by the American military. So you see this in Platoon where they clear people out of the village. And so they take all the friendlies, quote unquote friendlies, out of the village. And they then would declare that area a free fire zone. In other words, anybody who's then seen in that area, you can kill. That's the rule, basically. Well, the men asked, and they kept asking, and it went up the chain of command in the mid-60s. They kept asking command, how do we know the difference between somebody who's a Viet Cong and somebody who is not? Like, how do we know that we're dealing with a civilian or whether we're dealing with somebody who is basically a guerrilla enemy of ours in South Vietnam? And what the order that came back down, and I'm not kidding about this, was that basically if when you approach somebody, either with on foot or by air, so that if you're flying at somebody with a helicopter and they start to run, they must be only the guilty run, and so therefore they must be Viet Cong, that is, they must be guerrillas, or NVA regulars, and so they can be killed. So anybody who is running is an enemy. So you can imagine it's the same kind of thing that we're seeing now, we have been seeing all along with in the Black Lives Matter discussion, where one of the things you have to train young black men particularly not to do is run or resist in any way. Not that guarantees you're going to survive. It's a start, right? But if you run, you're not going to make it. You just you're not going to make it. Okay, so the same thing here. So this scene comes directly out of dispatches, where Hare meets this door gunner who has got these confirmed kills. And this is actually a thing where you get a kill and then people on the ground will say, yep, they had a weapon, confirmed, and so on. And so this person's got like 150 confirmed kills, and he shoots water buffalo. He basically shoots anything. He just loves it. He just loves this killing. And and then they give the sort of classic lines to Joker, who says, how do you kill women and children? And he says, easy, you just don't lead them so much. When you're shooting at a moving target, and remember, they're flying, so they're flying fast, and it's to become an effective door gunner is really something else. I mean, it really means you're a very experienced gunner, because you are used to shooting with a high caliber weapon from different distances down at moving targets, and you're moving too, not necessarily in the same direction. So these people were extremely skilled, some of them. And when you're shooting at a moving target, you don't shoot it where the target is now. It's moving, right? You shoot ahead of it where it will be, because you're trying to fire a bullet there. So at the point that the bullet gets there, it'll meet the person who's running, right? That's what you're trying to do. And this is called leading the target. So you lead it. Anybody who plays video games or paintball or actually likes to shoot human beings or animals will know about leading the target, where you're shooting, you're prepared to shoot where the thing is going to be. And that's what this guy says. He says, so how do you shoot women and children? You just don't lead them so much, because they can't run as fast, right? So like a child can't run as fast as an adult, and a woman can't run as fast as a man. And then he says, ain't war hell, and then he just laughs. So this is the bond of insanity that these men have with each other.